Hey, good morning, everyone. It's Lincoln-Goldfinch, and today I'm really excited about our weekly Facebook Live video because we have two very special guests here to talk with us about the racial justice movement that's been happening. It's been a very exciting movement, and I know that there are a lot of questions out there in the community about what it's all about and what we can do to help and how to get involved. And so we wanted to invite some activists in the sphere to come and talk to us about it. And today is a video in English and in Spanish. So we're going to be talking in English and then we'll answer each of the questions and we'll have a discussion in Spanish. So, hola a todos, gracias por estar con nosotros. Estoy muy emocionado hoy porque tenemos dos invitadas especiales para discutir justicia racial. Y pues este video va a ser en inglés y en español. So thank you both, Deborah, Alemu, and Alex Peak, for being with us here today. We really appreciate you sharing your time and your knowledge with us. Thank you so much. Let's start by just having you introduce yourselves. Deborah, we'll start with you. Just tell us about you and the work that you do in your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. Can you hear me okay?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Yes. Again, my name is Deborah. I was raised here, or Deborah. I was raised here in Austin, and I'm a community organizer. I'm a Black woman. I'm an immigrant. And my introduction to organizing and activism was through the immigrant rights movement, and all parts of my lives converged doing immigrant rights organizing, where I realized the importance of racial justice and all of my identities needing to be uplifted, and seeing that the common theme in all of these fights for justice were around fighting capitalism, patriarchy, and imperialism. So it's been a long journey, and I'm really proud of myself. Yeah, Alex, go for it.
Buenos días, buenas tardes a todas. Gracias por estar aquí, por tener el tiempo y buscar el tiempo para escuchar este video. Yo me llamo Alexandra Peak. Yo crecí en El Paso, Texas. Mi mamá y su familia son de México y mi papá y su familia son del norte de los Estados Unidos. Yo soy miembro de una organización, una federación que se llama 401. Nosotros somos un grupo de activistas negros y negras que luchamos por la liberación negra de personas en todo el mundo. Así que estoy bien emocionada y contenta de estar aquí con ustedes y poder hablar sobre este tema que es bien importante, especialmente en este tiempo de mucho cambio.
Gracias, Alex. And Evelyn, thanks for your question. I see that you're here and you have a question about DACA, and I'm going to be more than happy to talk to you guys about your immigration questions. Go ahead and just add them to the comments. And at the end of our conversation, I want to give this conversation with Deborah and Alex the respect and the time that it deserves. So we're going to have this important conversation with them, and then I'm more than happy to answer your questions at the end. And as usual, you guys feel free to put your comments here. We'll answer them during the video. We'll answer them after the video. And if you have something personal or private that you want to ask us, just send us a text message or a phone call at our number 512-599-8500, or you can just shoot us a Facebook message. We're constantly chatting with you guys on Facebook. So thank you both for that introduction, telling us about yourselves. Deborah, let's start we're going to do these same questions with you in English first, and then Alex will answer the questions in Spanish. So could you give us a lesson, an abbreviated lesson on police brutality over the last 400 years?
Absolutely. We understand police brutality as something that has been centuries in the making. So for hundreds and hundreds of years, not just in the United States, but across the globe, we see this constant effort to protect wealth or property. And so in 1704, we saw in Carolina, when it was a colony, one of the 13 original colonies, the beginning of the slave patrols. And that was an effort that isn't quite like our municipal police departments now, but it was an effort to, first of all, put a scare tactic into enslaved people's communities and say, you know, we're watching you. If you try so much as to rise up against your slave owner or run away to freedom, we're watching you and we'll catch you. So that was, you know, 300 years ago. And we have seen police departments become more and more sophisticated, more and more heavily bolstered with resources and weaponry that they don't need to have. In the 1880s, we'll jump forward from the 1700s, way fast forward, and by 1880s, all major U.S. cities had a municipal police force in place. And so in 1882, you saw them really put into force actually to control Chinese immigrants when the Chinese Exclusion Act came about. And there was this concerted effort to catch, once again, control working class populations, and in that case, Chinese immigrants. The idea, again, is to instill, from the beginning of time, the idea of police has been to instill fear in working class communities so that we know who is on top and who is on bottom. We know who is the owner and who is the worker. We know who has power, state-sanctioned power, and who is abused by that power. And so that's another example. And then in 1904, were some of the first immigration patrols. There was no USCIS, no Immigration Customs and Enforcement, but there were concerted efforts to prevent illegal crossings whenever there was the concept that there weren't enough jobs. And as soon as that narrative started to get pushed, suddenly there was larger enforcement across the southern border to prevent crossings. And then, you know, in the 1960s, there were a series of riots and uprisings against police brutality. And you saw groups like the Black Panther Party address issues long before Black Lives Matter was a movement, address issues of police brutality, and they would try to arm our communities so we could utilize self-defense and not feel so helpless every time we went to the library or to school or to the banks or to a restaurant. This constant terror that anything you do could be a reason for an officer to do harm to you, to kill you, to injure you. And I know personally in my life, it's something that I've always been raised to understand, and that's to just avoid any possible interaction, both because I was undocumented and because I'm a Black woman. These two things came, you know, were always in the forefront of my mind anytime I would be driving and there's an officer behind me. So the fear really tactic has had such a stronghold in many of our lives. And then if you go from the 1960s, during the uprisings, the riots, you have the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act. It's was a bill that Congress passed in 1994, unfortunately under the Democratic executive office. So a Democratic president, and essentially that introduced the 3 strikes you're out rule and created even harsher punishments for Black and brown communities across the United States. Any drug-related crime would have you facing severe sentencing that was unprecedented before 1994's crime bill. And that 94 bill has come back to haunt people. It's been, 25 plus years, and it's still impacting people's lives. And then the 96 bill was another heavy loss for our communities, as it meant such punishments such as the 10-year ban came about, which is essentially restricts us from being able to re-enter the country should we be deported. So there's a 10-year time period, and that has separated so many thousands of families. And I'm bringing this up because of the close relatedness to between police and immigration enforcement. The two are really the same. That's kind of why we chant la policía, la migra, la misma porquería. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but that's the chant. And it's because there's a common understanding that the two are closely linked. When police departments ask for more money from their municipalities, from their state governments, we see the same thing happening where ICE is asking for billions more dollars every year in appropriations, and they're asking that from Congress. And so you see this rise in power of these two very strong forces, ICE and police. And then in 2003, we saw ICE officially form, and that was again in response to it was rooted in racism, and we've seen that that's been the pattern of action. If working class populations need to be controlled, whether we're Black, Brown, Asian, then you see this prioritization and resources towards militarization of police and other law enforcement agencies. And now we're not just dealing with police and ICE. There are hundreds of, not to scare people, but just so that we're all aware that now they've broken up into hundreds of smaller entities that control populations and effectively like raid our homes, raid our workplaces, patrol us in the streets. So much is going into technology and secure and enforcing us every step of the way of our lives. So if you get nothing else, just know that for over 400 years, police have been growing in power, in money, in resources, in influence over our politicians. And that's why now there's a call for their abolition.
Thank you. That's such a good and succinct coverage of what has been a whole lot of centuries of police brutality. And you think about, just in the last few years, we've had the technology to be able to pull out our phones and record an interaction, and all of these awful, awful videos that we see just flooding, our feeds. And you think about all of the things and the brutality that happened that wasn't captured on camera, and all the years leading up to this and to this day that aren't captured on camera. So thank you. Ahora voy a hacer la misma pregunta en español, y tengo mis notas hoy porque normalmente puedo hablar en español sobre los temas de inmigración, pero no tengo el vocabulario con fluidez cuando estamos hablando de justicia de raza. Entonces, Alex, ¿puede darnos una lección de historia abreviada sobre la brutalidad policial en los últimos 400 años?
Pues dar una historia de los pasados 400 años es mucho, ¿verdad? Así que voy a dar una descripción bien breve y también compartir estadísticas hoy en día de cómo la policía todavía terroriza y opresa a comunidades negras o personas de color no negras. Y como está diciendo Deborah, hay una historia de racismo internacional en la cultura de la policía, porque en entonces de los siglos XVI y XVII, antes que los Estados Unidos era su propio gobierno y su propio país, crearon una fuerza especial, y esa fuerza especial era para ir y capturar y regresar a la propiedad. Y en ese entonces la propiedad de los blancos eran los esclavos, las personas negras. Así que con las comunidades negras y la policía siempre ha habido este esfuerzo y este miedo porque siempre era la propiedad de los blancos o del Estado. La policía era la extensión del Estado para proteger a los intereses capitalismo y también a las fuerzas de supremacista blancas. Así que por eso hay todavía en este día ese racismo que existe en la policía. Voy a dar unas estadísticas del 2019 y la policía de los Estados Unidos ha matado más de 1,000 personas en el 2009 y 24 de esas personas, de esas muertes, son a las manos de la policía, eran afroamericanos, a pesar de que los afroamericanos nomás son 13% de la población. Y había solo 27 días en el 2019 cuando la policía no ha matado a alguien. Así que ese narrativo que la policía debe de proteger a la gente, que la policía es ahí para traer justicia o seguridad, para muchas personas de color, especialmente para las personas negras, eso no es el caso. Y 99% de los casos de asesinatos de la policía a partir del 2013 al 2019 no han resultado en ningún cargo a los oficiales acusados, ningún cargo. Así que para los afroamericanos son 3 veces más probables de ser asesinados por la policía que los blancos. Y especialmente hablando en el caso que acaba de ocurrir con el George Floyd, que empezó todas esas protestas que está pasando, el oficial, la policía que mató a él, Derek Chauvin, ya tenía 18 quejas en su contra cuando mató a George Floyd. Así que hay una historia de proteger a la policía, al sistema cultural del racismo, porque es una extensión del Estado que vino de una historia racista. Y muchas personas no saben esta historia porque sí es oculto. Los Estados Unidos en las escuelas no nos enseñan qué pasó desde entonces y cómo es relacionada a lo que todavía está pasando. Y como estaba diciendo Deborah, los fondos para la policía están aumentando cada año. Más y más billones de dólares están yendo para la policía, los departamentos de la policía. Y se está encontrando más y más evidencia que los jefes de policía, los presidentes de departamentos de policía, están relacionados de grupos de supremacistas blancas. Así que la cultura de el privilegio blanco y la supremacía blanca está integrado con la cultura de la policía y también con la inmigración y protegiendo el bordo, ¿verdad? Protegiendo el capitalismo de un extento, porque todavía necesitan el labor de inmigrantes para sobrevivir para el capitalismo. Así que es algo bien oculto, una historia que nos desortonan un poquito. Así que para mí todo esto, la policía y la inmigración son la misma fuerza, son la misma extensión del Estado, el mismo racismo que mató a George Floyd, deportan a los inmigrantes, ¿no? Y la gente tiene que ver esa conexión si tenemos que tener una liberación juntos y colectivos.
Sí, gracias, Alex. Okay, Deborah, so can we talk a little bit about why this uprising is happening now? And, we want to talk about like fact, fiction, and just what people need to know in the context.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really important that people understand that this is not the first uprising, like Alex and I have both mentioned. This is a long legacy of fighting for liberation that our ancestors have passed on to us because there's still injustices. And so this most current uprising we think has a lot to do with the fact that, one, the murder of George Floyd was so reminiscent of a lynching, which is what Alex reminded me yesterday. It was, we also talked about how we've all become somewhat numb, right, to gun wounds or gun violence. It seems like every other month there's another mass shooting, and so, or another shooting by police. And so that's beginning to numb us. But to see this officer dig his knee to George Floyd's neck and hold it there for 9 minutes as he's screaming for his life and saying he can't breathe, really was another public lynching, which we thought we had stopped seeing hundreds of years ago, but that's clearly not the case. And so part of it was people's reaction to that. We're also amidst a global pandemic. So there is a lot of existing fear about our well-being. We've already seen, both in Austin/Travis County and across the nation, Black and brown people are more negatively impacted. And by that, I mean like more likely to fall ill to COVID-19 and more likely to die of COVID-19 than any other, Black and brown people, than any other group, racial group. And so that is extremely concerning. So we're already having to deal with the reality that our lives are could be cut short because of this virus and because of the lack of infrastructure for a public health system in this country. And then to have to respond to this lynching in broad daylight that was done, you know, with 3 other cops who were all bystanders, really incited public rage. And we're also responding not just to police brutality when we're taking the streets, we're also responding to everything, all the systems that are coming to a head between as a result of the global pandemic. So we've seen a lack of job infrastructure. We're seeing where the billions, trillions of aid is going to. It's going to save businesses and Wall Street, and very little of it is coming to the people. We're seeing billions of dollars being poured into military-grade weapons for local police departments across the country, but not as much being poured into personal protective equipment for anyone who's considered a first responder and has had to be out of their homes the last few months. So this disparity has caused people to say, do our lives even matter? We're going to need to show up and show out and protest, not just about police brutality and George Floyd's death, but the overarching theme in this country for the last 400 years, which is that Black lives don't matter. Not when it comes to the economy and jobs, not when it comes to healthcare or health, not when it comes to police brutality and safety in the streets or in our homes or anywhere else. And so I think that's part of why this moment was the moment to see people fled the streets globally.
Very well put. And we've got some comments here from Vanessa. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Alex. Gracias, Alex. Esta información es muy importante. So thank you guys for commenting. We'd love to see your comments and questions if you have any. Bueno, Alex, ¿por qué está ocurriendo el levantamiento como la realidad, ficción y cosas que todos tienen que hacer bien en el contexto actual?
Pues por muchos creo que hay confusión por qué todo esto está pasando ahorita, o por qué no ha habido la misma reacción de la comunidad por otros incidentes en que mataron a personas de color. Y hay unas hipótesis que he hablado con unas personas en Minneapolis que he entrevistado, Y unas personas están diciendo que para nosotros ya la violencia armada es parte de la cultura de americano, de ser americano. Siempre estamos viendo o escuchando historias tristes de que mataron a gente en la escuela, a los niños en la escuela, o que otra persona de color fue matada de la policía. Y es algo que escuchamos tan frecuentemente que no que ya no nos importa, pero que ya no nos duele, ya no es algo espantoso o que nos va a sorprender hoy en día en los Estados Unidos. Es la realidad de estar aquí en Estados Unidos. Así que en este caso especial, vimos un hombre que tenía su cuerpo arriba de otro y nomás ahí le estaba presionando en el cuello. Y nomás viendo a la gente como si, ¿qué me van a hacer? Ese poder que él tenía, el poder de la policía, el Estado, estaba viendo a la gente, a la comunidad, diciendo, no me puedes hacer nada, yo los puedo matar y nada me va a pasar. Y creo que ese instante era diferente porque no era rápido como una balaza, no era algo que se puede ya ir y filmar y es todo. Era más de 8 minutos que estaba policía arriba de George Floyd en el cuello y él murió tristemente y nada se hizo. Nada se hizo de las policías, de los otros policías que estaban a su alrededor, ni la gente se pudo ir por él. Había un barricade, no sé cómo se dice en español, pero había como, una línea, ¿verdad?, de poder alrededor de la policía, diciendo que sus vidas están en sus manos de la policía, están en las manos del Estado. Y creo que esa acción de tanto valor, ¿verdad? De tanto poder, cuestionó a la gente en su mente, ok, ¿cómo estamos viviendo hoy en día? Que algo así puede pasar en la calle, filmando por un policía del Estado y que nada se puede hacer. ¿Qué tipo de sociedad estamos construyendo? Y también, como está diciendo Deborah, toda la gente está ahorita parados o su normal ha sido destabilizados porque el COVID-19, el virus, está ahorita ganando rapidez en los Estados Unidos especialmente. Y desproporcionadamente están afectando los afroestadounidenses. Así que los afromexicanos están muriendo más rápido de este virus que cualquier otra población. Y eso nomás enseña cómo esta sociedad valora las vidas negras, valora los cuerpos negros, que ellos son disponibles para el Estado. Y creo que con la gente negra y las comunidades negras, ya que el sistema le está fallando en la salud, le está fallando en la justicia, ¿qué más que hacer que trozar todo? De demandar justicia, de ir en la calle. Así que creo que es una combinación de muchos diferentes factores. Pero esto no es algo nuevo, no es algo que ahorita nomás está diciendo abolir la policía, el sistema de la policía, abolir a ICE, no es nada nuevo. Abolicinas ha existido desde los 60s, donde estaban los derechos civiles, ahí entonces, también con César Chávez, también con el movimiento chicano, cuando ICE empezó a terrorizar a los inmigrantes, desde el 2003, abolicionistas estaban diciendo abolir a ICE. Así que todo ese lenguaje, todos estos comentarios de activistas, no es algo nuevo, nomás ahora las personas se están dando cuenta, se están realizando que tienen razón, que no son personas radicales que nomás están diciendo cosas para aborretar todo, ¿verdad? Pero que hay lecciones que tomar y hay que entender de dónde viene todo esto y escuchar y aprender, porque ellos tienen soluciones, activistas que están haciendo esto desde cuándo, tienen soluciones reales, tienen los números para proveer que este sistema que vivimos, la policía, no nos traiga justicia. Y todo lo que está pasando ahorita no es algo de una vez y ya que se pasó nomás porque se murió George Floyd. Su muerte era en la acumulación de tanto esfuerzo y miedo y terror y frustramiento. Y eso es lo que estamos viendo ahorita.
Gracias. So this is a question that's a little more relevant in Spanish, but I'm going to ask it to you in English as well, Deborah. And that's about terminology and phrasing, because for people who want to, reference the Black community with respect, what are the words that and the phrases and the terms that we should be using right now to refer to the Black community and the immigrant community?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, everyone has to open our minds to what Black is. Even though we're not a monolith, we're not just one thing, there has to be an understanding that Blackness is global, anti-Blackness is also global. So name a country and there's likely Black people there who speak Spanish, who speak many other like indigenous languages. And so when we're referring to Black people, don't just think like Blackness is being Black is related to being in America. That's not the case. I'm a first generation person here, immigrant. And I am Black without a doubt. All my family back home in East Africa is also Black without a doubt. And when we think of Blackness as being, wow, we're billions strong, that helps to expand our minds as to, how we can rely on each other as a community. And in terms of terminology, then maybe it won't be so difficult to name when you see a Black person from a different place in the world. We're no longer really keen on the term African American, maybe other than the purpose of census or star testing. I'm not sure what people are still using it for, but Black is a uniting terminology that reminds me that it's not just me and about 14 million other Black people in the United States, but oh my goodness, I'm one of billions in this world. And so I also prefer to use the term Black. Yeah, and I think Alex can explain more in Spanish.
Yeah, I like that. Estamos hablando sobre ¿cómo se dice? Las frases y las palabras que debemos usar para referir a la comunidad negra.
Pues, en mi experiencia depende de dónde vienes, ¿verdad? Pero en América Latina creo que hay una división entre latinos, como decir, morenos o negros. Yo crecí en una casa con mi mamá que ella dijo que el palabra o el terminaje negro suene bien duro y ofensivo. Aunque ella misma no era una persona negra, no era una mujer negra. Lo más que leo de personas negras en América Latina dicen específicamente yo soy negra, yo soy una persona negra, sino también dicen soy una persona de afrodescendientes, soy afro-latina, así que no hay vergüenza como se siente, no hay vergüenza de decir que yo soy negra, yo soy afro-latina, yo soy afrodescendiente, así que creo que va a depender de dónde vas en Latinoamérica, pero lo que yo he visto y con las personas afro-latinos que yo he hablado, ellas dicen que son africanos. Y es de volver a ese lenguaje de supremacista blanca, ¿verdad? Que hay un sentimiento que las personas no deben de reconocer que ellos son negros. Y lo que está diciendo Deborah, hay personas negras en cada país, en cada continente. Hay negras desde África hasta Latinoamérica, hasta los Estados Unidos. Así que al pensar que esto nomás afecta a personas estadounidenses es un error, porque estos problemas son mundial, son universal, lo que estamos enfrentando los negros. Así que depende de quién hablas, pero para mí los términos negro, negra, afrolatina, afrodescendiente son perfectamente descripciones de las personas negras que vienen de Latinoamérica. Estoy abierta para hablar con personas que están viendo este video. Si ustedes tienen otro término que les gustan, que les han dicho en casa, si saben de unos afrolatinos en Latinoamérica, de cómo es para ellos describir su negritud, porque el antinegritud existe mundialmente también. Y siempre hay opresión sobre las personas negras para que identifiquen con lo blanco. Si son latinos, que identifiquen que son españoles. Si son mixto con algo más que no es negro, que se aferran a eso y no la negritud, ¿verdad? Y eso es una conversación que tenemos que tener, es un cambio en la cultura y en el lenguaje que tenemos que empezar a hacer, ¿verdad? Porque es tanto importante cambiar la cultura y las opiniones y las percepciones que las leyes.
Gracias. Let's talk, Deborah, now about in what ways non-Black people have a common oppressor. And I'm specifically referring to non-Black immigrants who have a common oppressor.
Yeah. So, of course, just to preface it, of course, there's Black immigrants and from all over the world. Once again, we should all know this. When we talk about immigrant communities, we should know we're talking about a really multiracial group of folks, including Black people. We should know that Black people are also detained and deported by ICE. We should know that the United States has invaded and used for its own purposes countries across the world. So once that's out of the way, we can talk about alluding back to our conversation earlier that the same system that allowed George Floyd to die in the hands of a police officer is the same system that is deporting members of our community every day. You know, in 2014, the then President Barack Obama implemented the 1033 program, which essentially allowed military grade weapons to flood into the hands of both ICE and police departments. And so suddenly you have SWAT teams, you know, essentially going into workplaces and homes, people's sanctuaries, and taking them from their families and detaining and deporting them. Similarly, at these protests, we're seeing cops who have incredible amounts of riot gear and barricades. And even here in Austin, yes, I've seen tanks rolling through our streets, rolling through the access road to I-35. This is very personal to all of us. That money has been siphoned to these entities that every single day are harming us. You know, we have here in Austin, our liberal oasis of a city council and a sheriff's department who still have not explicitly said that they refuse to work with ICE. There have been attempts at creating a sanctuary city, and maybe it's even somewhere written on paper from some resolution or some memorandum, but it means nothing to us if every day folks in Runberg or Dove Springs are frightened for our lives, whether it's that we're being followed by police officers who will then turn us over to ICE, or whether it's being targeted and criminalized by ICE itself, just for being immigrants. And so that is part of our common oppressor, but it also isn't just as narrow as law enforcement. Our common oppressors are capitalism, patriarchy, and imperialism, which I know are dense and heavy ideas, but if we don't understand that the only way to fix this is through anti-capitalism, then we will forever be trying to band-aid up the problem. Oh, let's have police officers make sure that they have body cameras so that they behave well. And let's make sure that they have racial diversity training so that they know not to use the N-word, or so that they know not to heavily police Black and brown bodies. But the only real way to divest from them ultimately will be to have an anti-capitalist world that is not a world that is not invested in putting a dollar amount to each of us. The United States is overrepresented in the world's incarceration population. So the number of people we have in our jails and detention centers and prisons is in the millions. And of course, Black and brown people are overrepresented in those. And that is a part of this idea that we're each a number amount. It costs however amount, let's say $150 to keep a person in a detention center every single night. So of course they're going to want to maximize how many people they have in detention. Their pockets are filling and our homes are emptying because our family members are being snatched. Whether it's jail, prison, or detention centers, these are, again, the same oppressor. And all of that is rooted in this insatiable thirst for profit and money. And it's also why it's really important for us to understand capitalism and profit as the true enemies and stay away from turning on each other. Because when we start to say, oh, there's good protesters and bad protesters, and then we start to say, oh, there's good immigrants and then bad immigrants, we're creating the same type of harmful narrative that is getting far, far away from actually looking into the common enemy, our common oppressor, right? And so I challenge people. I know a lot of people have been saying, oh, these outsider agitator protesters. And that's very dangerous rhetoric because there's so many different ways to express our grief, our collective grief, and all of it can be righteous if it's coming from the oppressed. Of course, you're going to have off-duty or undercover police officers trying to create trouble. Of course, you're going to have right-wing and extremist groups trying to muddle with the dynamic here, but we need to collectively take a stand not to go after protesters. No matter what Target or Walmart is being looted, quite frankly, I believe that is nothing compared to the hundreds of years of pain Black and brown communities have been subjected to. From the very first native that white colonizers displaced until now, we have seen this consistent attempt to displace our blame and anger from being at the real root of the problem, which is capitalism, imperialism, and instead redirect it to each other. Oh, Black people hate brown people, and brown people hate Asian people, and da-da-da-da-da. This has done nothing for us. It is exactly what the oppressor wants from us. And so the more and more we come to realize that we have a common oppressor in all of these systems, not just law enforcement, then the more and more we're able to build solidarity and realize that we're much stronger in numbers as a collective.
That's very powerfully put, Deborah. Thank you for sharing that. And I thought what you said about their pockets are filling and our homes are emptying because they're snatching our family members is just, it gives me goosebumps to even think about it. And this private prison industrial complex that we have in the United States has got to end. I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, private prison companies with shareholders, with powerful lobbyists who are behind the drafting of these policies and legislations that just get put into place by our supposed leaders. And so thank you for sharing that. So Alex, estamos hablando de qué manera las personas que no son negras tienen un opresor común.
Pues para mí es obvio, pero para unas personas todavía necesitan hacer esta conexión que para las personas negras estadounidenses el terror sobre la policía es igualmente para los inmigrantes con ICE o sobre la patrulla la migra. Y eso es porque esas extensiones del Estado, la policía y de ICE es para enforzar, y también para proteger el capitalismo. Y lo que está diciendo Deborah es algo muy importante, es que el racismo y el capitalismo son la misma entidad, la misma extensión del Estado para proteger a la propiedad. Y es algo que es bien importante para discutir y para hablar, porque el racismo es parte integrante de todas las formas de explotación, ¿verdad? Por eso el capitalismo establece cuadrillas raciales y depende de ellas para promediar para la explotación a los que beneficia, pues que son los élites, que son los capitalistas. Así que todos los fondos que se están yendo a eso, que están yendo para los departamentos de policía, es porque alguien se está beneficiando de todo ese dinero. Todo se está yendo para arriba a los élites. Así que las personas negras y las personas de color no negra tienen que realizar que la misma opresor, tienen un opresor en común, y ese opresor nomás quiere que las personas negras o de color son trabajadores para los capitalistas. Y para que los dos no se unan y para que los dos no realicen que la liberación es colectiva, hay estos divisiones, ¿verdad? Dicen, hay un inmigrante bueno y hay un inmigrante malo, o hay una protesta o activista negra malo y uno activista bueno, para que se discutan entre ellos y para que no hay unidad. Y esa división es algo que vemos en las noticias, en las fuentes de noticias que estamos escuchando, que en español también, las fuentes de noticias que están yendo a nuestros papás, en nuestras casas, que siempre están trastornando y dividiendo la historia que está pasando. No están diciendo por qué hay estos marchas, por qué la gente está cansada y harta, ¿verdad? Están diciendo, ay, mira, están yendo a un Target o Walmart y están destruyendo la propiedad. Es una narrativa de proteger al capitalismo, porque ellos ya saben que este narrativo es bien, como incrustado en la cultura americana y en la cultura del mundo, si vamos a hablar sobre eso, porque el capitalismo viene de los Estados Unidos y otras fuerzas de Europa que van a países como África o asiáticos o Latinoamérica para encontrar trabajadores y para llevarse el dinero, llevarse los recursos para unos élites, ¿verdad? Así que es bien importante saber que nuestra fuerza es unida, que el capitalismo, el racismo y el patriarcado están trastornados entre ellos para que los bordos estén comprometidos, para que los policías están aventados con comunidades negras. Así que para mí este tema es bien importante, que siempre estamos a pendiente en cómo en narrativa nos está dando las noticias, cómo las narrativas le está dando los políticas, porque como estaba haciendo Deborah, en la administración de Barack Obama había una póliza que dio a la policía y ICE armas militares. Así que debemos de también pensar en las políticas como los demócratas, que nos dicen que son por la gente, que son para los inmigrantes, que son para los negros, y ver lo que están haciendo para nosotros también. Y muchas veces que no están diciendo o están alocando dinero a departamentos como uno republicano. Así que estoy afirma que todo esto es como más división que se está haciendo al propósito.
Gracias, Alex. Deborah, let's talk now on the positive side about how Black and Brown communities have worked together and been in solidarity in the past.
Absolutely. We have a really rich history, all of showing solidarity with each other and showing up for each other's fights. Just yesterday, I was looking at photos from a march in Boston, I believe, that was primarily, or that was organized partly by Cosecha, an organization based in the Northeast that has been mobilizing Brown folks around a lot of issues related to immigration, and they're voting saying like tu lucha es mi lucha, and so there's this common understanding, and Cosecha is in the rich legacy and history of the Brown Berets and the Young Lords and other groups in the 60s and 70s who had powerful actions to bring attention to police brutality. The Young Lords even, had modeled part of their platform, the goals of their organization around the Black Panther Party. And so you see this coalition forming between the organizations and other organizations, Native groups, East Asian, South Asian groups, and this larger coalition growing. And, unfortunately, some of that momentum was stopped by FBI interference. Once again, the police state felt threatened by our understanding of solidarity with each other and our understanding of our common oppressor. But I really encourage anyone to look into the Brown Berets or the Young Lords and the Black Panther Party, because while they focused on organizing a specific community, it was to meet the ends of collective liberation for all oppressed people. But sometimes you have to start with what you know. I'm one of the co-founders of an organization called Undocu Black Network. Again, another example of how sometimes you have to go where your community is. So for me, Black immigrants, but always with the understanding and always with the goal of, if we're getting rid of ICE, we're getting rid of ICE, not just for Black immigrants, but for everyone. That should be all of our thinking, is you can organize within your community. And there's a rich legacy of solidarity amongst Black and Brown organizations and communities.
Thank you, Deborah. And we've gotten some messages in. More gratitude for you both being here. Gracias por abordar estos temas, says Ana Contreras Moreno. And Johanna Saucedo says, thank you for doing this. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here with us. Again, I'm learning so many new vocabulary words. This is helpful for me in my Spanish vocabulary. So, Alex, the question is, ¿cómo se han solidarizado las comunidades negras y hispanas entre sí en el pasado?
Pues nuestro pasado está rico de casos y de movimientos en solidaridades entre las personas negras. Can you hear me?
It got a little slow, but now it's good.
Lo que estaba diciendo es que la historia está rica de ejemplos y casos entre solidaridades de las personas negras y las personas de color no negras. Yo acabé de aprender de Deborah ayer sobre una organización que se llamaba los Buenos Cafés, Brown Berets. Y ellos eran un grupo muy similarmente a los Panteras Negras, y ellos fueron modelados de la estructura de los Panteras Negras, y ellos sabían que había un opresor común y combinaron a fuerzas para ayudarles a unos de los otros. También había otro grupo que se llamaba Young Lords, o se traduce a Reyes Jóvenes. Y ellos también eran de Puerto Rico, y ellos quisieran la liberación de los Estados Unidos, querían su país para ellos. Y ellos también crearon una estructura, crearon un programa para ayudar a puertorriqueños, que era bien similar como los Panteras Negras. También había mucha solidaridad y comunicación entre Martin Luther King y César Chávez. Ellos dos reconocieron que para la libertad del racismo empieza con el capitalismo, como lo estamos diciendo, y es el esfuerzo de los trabajadores. Cuando Martin Luther King fue asesinado, él estaba en Chicago para ayudar a las labores, a los trabajadores allí en el sanitario. Igualmente como César Chávez estaba en la lucha para los trabajadores chicanos y mexicanos. Así que todas las esfuerzos y todas las conversaciones entre los grupos, los activistas de negros y personas de color no negra han sido uno igual, han sido la misma conversación, la misma liberación colectiva. Y mucho de esta historia está oculto, nos están diciendo, y es por una razón, porque saben que si la gente sabe otra vez, como ellos sabían, que nuestra fuerza es unida, más fuerte, nos vamos a hacer mucho más daño al sistema y vamos a hacer muchos cambios. Muchas de esas organizaciones fueron interrumpidas por el FBI, que dijeron que esas organizaciones eran terroristas, ¿verdad? Pero organizaciones como el KKK, que salía para agarrar a negros y lincharlos, era una organización política. Así que siempre hay este narrativo del Estado para terrorizar y también distortar la imagen de activistas negros y personas de color como terroristas o a grupos que van a hacer daño a los Estados Unidos y el capitalismo. Así que sí hay una historia bien rico de la solidaridad, y tenemos que aprender y desaprender muchas cosas también.
Thank you so much. So this is our final question, and I think it's a very important question. And that is, what can non-Black people do in solidarity with the movement? And what are things that non-Black people can do that are not just sort of performative solidarity, the actual actions that they can take?
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of this, a lot of it has to do around education and like Alex said, unlearning and learning. We're really going to have to work hard at educating ourselves and our families and our neighbors and our community about our common oppressor and focusing on that and stop nitpicking at these narratives that were never meant to serve us, such as, oh, the police protect and serve. ICE is just trying to do their job. Oh, you're a bad immigrant because you have a criminal record or because you don't have an education or don't speak English. Things to unlearn. And things to learn are around what does it look like to take down capitalism? What kind of a world can we envision when capital and profit are not the motivation for the subjugation of lives like mine and Alex's? There are ways to join the protests if you feel safe doing that, if legal status doesn't happen to be a concern of yours. That would be an amazing show of solidarity. And if that's not something that you can do, which is fine, which is understandable, then there are, are you a business owner? It would be incredible if your business had some sort of, signage around supporting Black lives. And then furthermore, discussed what are the things we will call 911 for. I know it's a really heavy commitment to say, I will not call 911 because certain situations we just feel so helpless. And there are no real alternatives for us yet in our community. That are fully accessible to all of us in all parts of Austin and abroad and across the country. However, a discussion around, George Floyd was killed over a fake $10 bill or $20 bill or who knows. The store owner called police saying, hey, I've been given a, what is it called? Counterfeit bill. And so the police came to investigate that storyline. But a fake 20, I don't care, a fake 100, it's not really worth the loss of a father, a partner, or any human being, period. And so, discussing with your community, like, what are we willing to call the police for? What are our hard boundaries? I've heard so many stories of people simultaneously scared of the police because it could introduce ICE to their family, but also calling the police and then getting people in trouble who weren't even the reason that the police were called. I've seen like bystanders, roommates, neighbors get arrested when that was never the initial complaint, but the cops came out, so they felt like they needed to do something, so that's how they responded. So there has to be these discussions. Also here in Austin, Mike Ramos was killed because someone else in his apartment complex said they thought they saw two people doing drugs in their car, parked car in his apartment complex where he lived. And so whether there were drugs or not is less of the problem. The reality is when police showed up, Mike Ramos was shot with his hands in the air and he died. And that is unacceptable over supposed drugs. So the police aren't really serving their purpose or doing their jobs correctly. And we know that in order to stand in solidarity with Black lives, we're going to have to challenge power, reconsider what we're willing to call the police for. And it's not going to be comfortable. Challenging power is never comfortable. Feeling like I have no one to call if my life is in danger is uncomfortable. Protesting is uncomfortable. We've been, hit by pellets and tear gas and other things that the police have at their will to use against protesters. So, if you want to talk about violence at protests, it needs to be around the state's violence towards protesters. That's the discussion we should be having and sharing with each other. Staying in a mindset of mutual aid and seeing what we can do for each other is another really important thing that we can continue to do. Looking to organizations like CCU in Austin, that's Communities of Color United, looking to organizations like Grassroots Leadership, Workers' Defense Project. No one organization is perfect, but this idea of creating new organizations even that are serving the people in the way that we need to be served. That's what we need to see in Austin. And mutual aid and all of the ways that we need to look out for each other so that we're not hungry, evicted, in jail, detained, all of that is some of what we can do. I know those are big things.
They are. It's very helpful. Thank you, Deborah. Okay, Alex, ¿qué pueden hacer las personas no negras en Austin o en cualquier lugar en solidaridad con el movimiento por vidas negras?
Hay algunas cosas que las personas pueden hacer para estar en la lucha o estar en solidaridad con las personas negras de la inmigración. Si usted puede salir a la calle y estar en las protestas, en las marchas, también es importante tener presencia y también estar ahí en solidaridad con tus hermanos y hermanas. Así que si puedes salir, sale con un grupo de amigos que tienes confianza, que tienes un cargador para tu teléfono, si algo te pasa, que tienes contactos de emergencia, que tienes agua, botellas de agua para todos. Así que si vas a ir a protestar, ir equipado y preparado por si algo pasa, ¿verdad? Porque la policía sí se puede poner violenta. Tenemos historias en lo que está pasando en Seattle, lo que está pasando en Nueva York o DC, en donde la policía sí se pone violenta. Así que si vas a salir, tenga un plan, habla con tus amigos y tus familiares para que ellos sepan dónde vas a estar y dónde te puedes escapar si algo pasa. Eso es primeramente si puedes salir. Para las personas que no quieren salir o quieren ver otro modo, es bien importante de escuchar y elevar los voces de negra, latinex, afro-latinex, porque ellos sí existen y hay muchos textos, hay muchos documentos, estadísticas de los años probando y ayudando la narrativa que la policía, el Estado y el capitalismo es una entidad solo que tiene que ser destruido por la unidad de la gente. Así que debes de aprender en cómo escuchar y aprender y desaprender cosas que que te han dado en tu vida, del sistema y la educación. También algo importante, por favor, deja de compartir videos traumáticos de gente siendo asesinado por la policía. Eso nomás ayuda a desanterizar a la gente y también puede ser bien traumático para unas personas de color. Y si puedes, deja de hablar a la policía. Hay muchos instantes como en George Floyd, cuando la policía no era necesario. En muchos casos estamos viendo que la policía no está sirviendo su propósito, no está ayudando a la gente. Y ya, pues, en unas comunidades negras ni se habla a la policía porque ellas no más vienen y ocasionan más violencia y no están haciendo lo que deben de hacer. Así que si pueden admitir de hablar a la policía, eso también ayuda. Y también habla con tus hijos, con tus padres, con tus primos, con tus amigos sobre la justicia racial y el racismo. Y si tienes Netflix, hay una película ahí que se llama 13, que es bien importante. Si puedes ver ese video en Netflix con tu familia una noche, ponen los subtitles en español. Y es una película bien importante que agarre todo lo que estamos diciendo en este video y lo presenta en un modo que puedes aprender mucho, y también te da muchos recursos si quieres seguir aprendiendo más sobre lo que está pasando.
Gracias, Alex. Well, you guys, this was incredible. This is one of my favorite videos that we've ever been able to do for our followers, and I want to thank you both for your generosity with your time and your knowledge and your wisdom and sharing it with us. And I, for one, hope that you run for office someday because we need more leaders in government like you. So thank you both so much. Do you have anything, any final words that you'd like to share before we stop our video today?
Just if folks have questions, I'll make sure to comment on the Facebook thread so you know how you can reach out to me directly to continue this conversation. And I hope this is an ongoing conversation for the firm and all the clients and the community at large.
For sure.
Le quiero dar las gracias a Kate y las oficinas de Lincoln-Goldfinch por invitarme a este video, y también los quiero dejar con unas palabras de Rosa Clemente. Ella es una activista y reportera, y esas palabras creo que es muy importante. Ella dice: ahora es el momento para nosotros como pueblo de entender que mientras exista la antinegritud en nuestras comunidades, tenemos la responsabilidad de luchar contra la antinegritud y el sistema de supremacía blanca por cualquier miedo que sea necesario. Depende de todos nosotros contrastar la carrera hacia la blancura, porque cuando todas las personas negras sean libres, todos seremos libres.
Bien dicho, gracias, Alex. Andrea Soto says, thank you both with a heart. I think there's a way for me to put this up on the screen so we can see it. Thank you, Andrea. And Evelyn, you had a question in the beginning of this video about can anyone apply for DACA? We are preparing initial DACA applications after the awesome Supreme Court decision this week. Super exciting. The video that we did, I think it was Thursday, talked a lot about that, but next week's video will be all about DACA and what's happening, because, you know, once the Supreme Court decision happens, then we've got sort of interpretation by the agency. And so we'll be updating you guys. There's also some recent asylum regulations and a new executive order that Trump put out that affects employment cases more than anything, but I'll be covering all that stuff for you guys next week. And in the meantime, Evelyn or anyone, if you have questions about your individual cases, just call us, send us a message. We're not charging for consultations during the pandemic, so there's no harm in just reaching out to us. We'll be happy to chat with you through Facebook, or just give us a call or a text at 512-599-8500. Thank you both so much for being with us here today. Your time. Everybody, adios.
Bye, adios.